Thank you very much. It's been many years since I was here last. The very first presentation I gave at LibSem was in 2011, and it was an absolute pleasure and honor, and it's a pleasure and honor to be back here again. While I've got the floor, I do want to take this opportunity to say thank you to Trevor and the organizers for this event. It's been an absolutely amazing weekend. Thank you so much. I also want to say a tremendous thank you to Leon Lowe and Francis Kendall and the Free Market Foundation. The service that you have given to liberty in South Africa in your lifetimes has been phenomenal, and the reason we're all sitting here today is largely because of your efforts and our complete disillusionment with the state. So thank you very much. In my little way, I would also like to influence this country towards greater liberty. And some of you will be familiar with the Cape Party. For those of you who are not, let me explain a little bit about who we are and what we stand for. Here we go. So I'll be talking about the concept of self-determination, secession, and as it applies to us here, Cape independence. Now, when the Cape Party was founded in 2007, and I came to speak to many of you in 2011, I was considered crazy, a nutcase. And I don't know what's happening around the world, but maybe the whole world has gone crazy, because secession and self-determination is quite a hot topic right now. On that note, I'm honored today to be sharing the stage with other organizations that are also fighting for Cape independence. And this is a topic that is on the tip of people's lips and their tongues throughout the country, and I think it's a sign that this message, its time has come. So, what is secession? Here's the dictionary definition. It is the formal withdrawal from an organization, state, or alliance. On a more philosophical level, secession is liberty. Secession is something that we engage in on a day-to-day basis, whether we realize it or not. We choose to enter places and leave them at our own free will. We enter into relationships with people and end them at our own free will, if we decide to. If the relationship works, we stay together forever. You enter into business agreements with people for as long as they are suitable for both of the business parties. Constitutions, friendships, business agreements, dating, marriage, joining a school or a club, these are all forms of contracts and agreements that we enter into on a daily basis. And it is our free will and our free choice, if we believe in democracy, to be able to leave those organizations and entities if we so choose. This is the philosophical pinning of secession. Now, secession is not just a political process of a country breaking away. It has many more functions than that. It's a powerful, powerful tool, and we need to realize the power that we all have. With secession, you can leave something bad. If it's not working, you can leave. But at the same time, it allows you to create something new. And if you're in something that is working, it is a power to protect something that is good. The threat of secession keeps states on their toes. It gives you the freedom to determine the rules of engagement in whatever relationship you find yourself in. Without secession, liberty is as safe as a politician's promise. We always need to have the opportunity to say, we've had enough, we're going, unless you fix it. Something is going on in the world. Now, regardless of your opinion on all these political events that I'm about to run through here, regardless of your personal opinion, something is happening. Riots in Hong Kong to get independence from China, more independence. Lega Nord in Italy, a very strong movement to get out of the European Union. Orban in Hungary, an absolute spanner in the European Union's spokes. The Freedom Party in Austria. Marine Le Pen in France. Geert Wilders in Holland. I love this one. In Brussels, the center of the European Union, you have the Walloons and the Flanders who want to declare independent states in the very heartland of Brussels, the headquarters of the European Union. Quebec in Canada. Southern Sudan, which declared independence a few years ago. The election of Donald Trump. Brexit. Scotland and Wales wanting independence if Brexit goes through. Catalonia, Barcelona, wanting to break away from the Spanish government. There are winds blowing through the planet today, and I think it's no different to what we're going through here in South Africa. Many of you will know that a few days ago we were given warnings by the police here in Velddrif that there were riots taking place. The EFF and a number of their supporters had Molotov cocktail, a library, a soup kitchen, and houses that had been built for the community for whom was now rioting. That is pure destruction. What type of state are we living in when a part of your community who, another part of the community, is trying to assist, they burn down the epicenter of education and ability to feed oneself, keep you alive, and to put a roof over your head. These are the fundamental pillars of survival, and that is under threat, as we just saw a few days ago. Now, expropriation without compensation, the Employment Equity Act, the National Democratic Revolution, some of the highest crime rates in the world, water and electricity blackouts, and economic junk status. These are all things that we're living with here in South Africa. And we don't need to. It's time to go. So, my presentation will go through the process of leaving. Self-determination, secession, making a choice to determine our own future. Legally, there are a number of laws that guarantee the right to self-determination. International law is full of it. United Nations, the African Union, and the Constitution of South Africa all guarantee the right to self-determination. Here's an extract from Section 235 of the Safran Constitution. The right of self-determination of any community sharing a common cultural and language heritage within a territorial entity in the Republic. The Cape satisfies all of that criteria. South Africa is a signatory to the African Union. Here's an extract from the African Union Charter on Human and People's Rights. All peoples shall have the right to existence. They shall have the unquestionable and inalienable right to self-determination. They shall freely determine their political status and shall pursue their economic and social development according to the policy that they have freely chosen. There's no ambiguity in what this means. If you're interested in reading more legal charters, you can have a look at those. Okay, so we can do it legally. Many people say, well, can you survive without the gold of the North? And, would we be able to look after ourselves? Well, I'm not going to go into all of the numbers with regards to the Western Cape's economic sector and how we have all the markings of a first world economy. Given the right economic conditions, we would absolutely thrive. I'm just going to give you an example of how much the Western Cape is being robbed by the National Treasury. Robbed, absolutely blind. The Western Cape accounts for approximately 14% of South Africa's total GDP. So we provide approximately 14% into the fiscus. The fiscus is 1.5 trillion rand, which means we put in approximately 210 billion rand every single year from the Western Cape goes into the National Treasury. This is an extract from the Division of Revenue Act, which determines how much money is sent back to the provinces. On our provincial allocation, we get a mere 47 billion rand. In our local allocation, we get approximately 5 billion rand. That's 52 billion rand that is coming back to us out of the 210 billion rand we are sending to the ANC-controlled national government. If we were an independent country, we could slash taxes in half and still have double the amount of revenue for schools, hospitals, infrastructure. Does the Cape want it? This is a map of the election results from 2009. I'll show you a more recent one. And it's quite clear to see that there's a line that gets drawn from the Northern Cape down to about halfway or 1/3 into the Eastern Cape. This entire territory here has a different political aspiration to this territory here. Here in KwaZulu-Natal is another very interesting story, and I'll talk about that later. But these are your two real areas in South Africa, independent country, that have a fundamentally different political aspiration to the rest of this territory here. This area is highly densely populated, and so that's why when elections come out, the ANC wins with a significant majority. This is much more sparsely populated, and we'll get into more details later. This is the latest election as of this year, and you can see that the ANC certainly has made headway into these areas, but still the basic premise maintains. Here in KZN and the Cape, there is a difference in political aspiration. South Africa is not a natural country. Just think about the name, South Africa. This was a name that was imposed on us by the British Empire in 1910. They called us the Union of South Africa. Where are we? On the African continent, down at the bottom. Call them the Union of South Africa. They've got gold and diamonds. We want those. So they took these independent territories and they forced us into this union, which became today South Africa. But there are deep cultural and historical roots going back hundreds and hundreds of years throughout the country. And you saw the different election results in KwaZulu-Natal, that red area. Well, that's your majority Zulu speakers. They have different political aspirations to what the ANC is offering them. Here are your Xhosa speakers in the Eastern Cape. Here are your Sotho speakers. Can anyone tell me what country that is? Absolutely. There's a correlation. Can anyone tell me what country that is? Swaziland, Swazi speakers. Eswati, okay, yes. Can anyone tell me what country that is? Botswana, Tswana speakers. So we have a number of countries that exist today, right now today, that have historical, cultural, and linguistic roots that go back hundreds of years. Now you correlate that to the Cape. We too, as you saw in the previous election results, have a different aspiration, a different culture, a different history, and a different language. The majority of the Cape is Afrikaans speaking. The Afrikaans language is unique in the world. Nowhere else in the world, except some strange little place in South America, I believe, also has an Afrikaans population, but this is the heartland of the Afrikaans language. And as you would have remembered in section 235, the legal criteria to declare a territory independent is a common cultural and linguistic heritage. This sounds great. So what do previous and current world leaders think? If any state in the Union will declare that it prefers separation to a continuance in union, I have no hesitation saying, let us separate. This was Thomas Jefferson, the third US president. Imagine the US president today saying, imagine Barack Obama said, okay, fine, you guys in Texas don't like me, just go. Imagine Donald Trump said, okay, you guys in California, you can go. This is the mentality that we once had. Here's a quote from the Socialist Revolution and the Right of Nations to Self-Determination. I had to go to www.marxist.org to find this. I had to have a shower for about an hour afterwards, so I hope you appreciate my efforts. Socialism must achieve complete democracy and not only bring about the equality of nations, but also give effect to the right to self-determination, i.e., the right to free political secession. A free union is a false phrase without the right to secede. Beautiful. How libertarian is that? Lenin, Commissar Lenin, understood this because philosophically and ethically, secession and self-determination is morally indefensible to prevent people from choosing it. It comes down to the very core of people's free will and democracy. Here's another quote. In 6 months' time, the people of Southern Sudan will be voting on self-determination, choosing between the options of unity or secession. The Sudanese people, in all their formations, the African Union, and the rest of the international community are together obliged to respect the freely expressed wishes of the people of Southern Sudan and will do so regardless of the choice they make. What a fantastic approach to people's free will, political free will. Thabo Mbeki, South African president, and he gave that quote in 2010. If Jefferson, Lenin, and Thabo Mbeki all agree, I'm sold too. Okay, so how do we do it? The K Party, our first objective was to win an election outright. Win 51%, call a referendum, because we've done polls, and these polls have shown a huge majority of people living in the Cape are in favor of Cape independence. And let's actually do a poll. Who here believes that a Western Cape self-governing would be better than the Western Cape currently controlled by the national apparatus of the ANC? Yeah, I've got good news for you guys. I've got good news for you guys. You are not alone. You are not alone. And I suppose one of the difficulties at the Cape Party has been sort of, well, we haven't had the type of electoral inroads that we would have liked to have had when we started 12 years ago. But I think, as I mentioned earlier, the winds of change are coming. And people are growing more and more sick and tired of the political and economic system and mess we find ourselves in. So we have developed other plans to succeed at secession. Now, people are sometimes taken aback by this because they think, oh, you need a strong opposition. You need a strong DA. We need a strong DA to keep the ANC out. No, you don't. And this is actually one of the few areas in South African politics which I have to say, we have a good political system. It's actually a very good political system. We have a proportional representation political system, which means it's not first past the post, like they have in America, where you get dictators and you have a two-party state like the Republicans and the Democrats, and you have no other choice other than that. We have the possibility to have a beautiful broad spectrum of opinions being expressed politically. You can have the DA at 20%, and the ACDP at 15%, and the Freedom Front at 10%, and the Cape Party at 5%, and a whole spectrum of groups that form a coalition and keep each other in check, keep them honest. So we want to try and get people to see that a monolithic DA is actually bad for democracy. It's bad for liberty. And we want a DA underneath 50%. Sure, they will be the majority party. They will be the biggest party. But we want to hold them accountable. So if we can get the DA under 50%, let's say they drop to 48%, 49%, whatever it might be. The Cape Party comes in at 1, 2, 3%. We can then sit down at the negotiation table with them and say, listen, we will give you complete power. You can do whatever you want, just give us one thing. And it's not us, it's the people of the Cape. People demand this, they want this, we need this. We cannot carry on the way that we're going. We will give you a majority if you allow a referendum for the people of the Western Cape to vote on our own self-determination. We were quite happy to see in these last elections, the DA had a poster up saying they will fight for they will implement a provincial police service and a provincial railway. And this is the first time in almost a decade we've seen more libertarian, free market type policies being implemented by the DA. So even without holding that political power, we can hold influence over the DA to get them to be a better party. Now, this is in the Constitution. Any premier in South Africa has the right to call a referendum. Right now, today, you can go to the premier of the Western Cape and you can say to him or her, you can say, please give us a referendum on Cape independence. And that power is invested in that seat. So I urge all of you to put pressure on the Premier of the Western Cape in whatever way you feel you can be most effective. This is a shortcut route to getting our referendum on self-determination. Another angle that we've looked at is it's far easier to contest smaller regions, obviously financially. So this is a beautiful area right here in Velddrif, Saldanha Bay, just down the road. And I think people here are, after the EFF's antics over the last few days, might be ripe for secession. So if we were to get a majority and hold power within a specific territory, that could be a fantastic platform for it to spread through other parts of the Western Cape and broader Cape. So once we win, then what? Well, we like to keep things quite simple. You get people talking about left wing, right wing, libertarian, capitalist, socialist, communist. Let's forget all of that. Let's drop these labels and let's look at the world like a laboratory. What succeeds and what fails? There is no question that one of the most successful political systems in the world is the canton, decentralized, direct democracy of Switzerland. And we would like to see a similar structure put in place in an independent Cape, the Cape Republic. We've identified approximately 62 municipalities which make up the broader Cape region, and each of those municipalities should have the freedom to decide their own policies and how they choose to live their lives over a broader Bill of Rights which entrenches freedom, which we all believe in. The next thing is Singapore. You take a muddied island that also suffered under colonialism, suffered under the British Empire, had Muslim, Christian, Hindu, Taoist, different ethnic groups at each other's throats, warring factions there. And Lee Kuan Yew managed to take Singapore in 1965 from this to one of the highest incomes per capita, lowest unemployment, highest standards of living in the world with good economic policies. This is a country with a political and checkered past, just like South Africa. What did? They didn't choose to look in the rearview mirror and throw stones at other people because they've got a different skin color to you. They said, no, let's focus on what works. Let's make sure there's food on the table. People have an ability to be prosperous. You don't want to throw stones at people if they've got a different skin color to you. If you can look after your family, your life is complete and satisfied from an economic and social sense. And Singapore managed to achieve that. So we believe that through a few of these political tactics, the gentleman later will be talking about other tactics, but through a few of these ways to achieve Cape independence, we can have one of the freest and most beautiful countries in the world right here in our home, the Cape of Good Hope. Thank you very much. Sure.
So, I'm only going to allow one of the short questions, please, because C5, you have a question. You can do it with my screen. Okay. If these two can start short, I'll give you the third one. Please, short.
Okay. Thank you. I sincerely hope you're looking at what's going on in Knysna at the moment.
Sorry?
Knysna, are you seeing what's happening there right now? Because
No.
it's primed for independence. Yeah, the infighting's horrific, the DA is fighting within itself, and the entire town is screaming for independence, so worth a look.
Thank you for the tip. Leon, Knysna.
You say that a referendum is possible. You say that a referendum is possible if it is called by the Premier of the province.
The Premier of the province has a constitutional allowance to call for referendums.
Because it seems to me that a referendum is really the only way in which a thought like this is going to get off the ground. But if you have the kind of support that you say you have, then certainly the first step must be to agitate for a referendum. And even those of us who continue, suppose, reluctantly to support the DA, would say, well, let's do exactly that in order to achieve this result.
Absolutely. No, I agree with you entirely, and that's the thing. The Cape Party is a vehicle to achieve this vision. I think many people are part of the Cape Party. It's literally a labor of love. None of us, I think, really want to be politicians as such. It's a vehicle to achieve something that has to happen if, unlike Dr. Pete Krookamp, we don't just want to pack up and leave. This is our home. This is where we grew up. We plan to stay. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. We love it. And let's dig our heels in and in a peaceful and legal way push for a referendum to take back our home.
Jack, I'm very anxious. Would the Cape Party and secession include the Eastern Cape up to the Fish River or not?
As I showed in the earlier slides, the Cape Party doesn't define what the Cape Republic would look like. That will be a purely democratic process. the people themselves will decide. It could be that no one in the entire Western Cape and Northern Cape wants Cape independence except for Hart Bay. Then Hart Bay should have the right to their own self-determination. It could be that the whole of the Eastern Cape or other parts would like to be part of an independent Cape. Who knows? But we believe, looking at the election results, that there's a disconnect between the people that happen to live in the Western Cape and Northern Cape, and 6 municipalities in the Eastern Cape have a revulsion against ANC policies, and these are most likely the territories that would vote in favor of independence.
Jack, have you got an army? What do you do when the ANC declares war against the Western Cape for trying to secede?
Yeah, I don't think that's a likely scenario, and even if that was to happen, it would then remove the mask and the veil of the state, and the entire international community would then see, okay, even now you're seeing huge pressure being put on the South African government with regards to expropriation without compensation from a number of governments around the world. If they were to do that, then I think it might delay independence, but it would simply be a matter of time before the social pressure, just like the apartheid government collapsed, the social pressure would eventually build to the point that, if not directly after the referendum, 5 years after the referendum, who knows, we would eventually get our independence. It's a long-term end goal, but we have to be pushing in that direction.
Okay, thank you. We're going to have 2 more sessions.